happy day after Christmas. It's December 26, 2022, and Christmas is now over. And there was a story on the news as I was driving in my car yesterday. It was on radio news about surfing dogs wearing Santa hats. I think it was in Cocoa Beach. But anyway, I thought, I'd like to see that. And so I went online. I didn't find any video of it, but I found some surfing dogs. So I decided to paint a picture of a surfing dog with a Santa hat on. And I wanted to do it in a painterly way. So I didn't want to illustrate it. If you, how do I say this? I don't like the word follow. I don't want to say you're following me, like I have followers. It's kind of a weird word, isn't it? But maybe you're following what I'm doing. Anyway, let me not get stuck on that. I feel like there's some art that I do that is intentionally intended to be an illustration. So for that, I kind of make it, whether it looks editorial-ish, like real people or real animals or whatever, or if I make it cartoonish, where things are exaggerated or more cartoony, best way to say it. I like to use, whether it's real paint or digital paint, I like to use like gouache for something that I want to be more artsy, more painterly. I do like to use a paint, regular oil or acrylic, or pastel. I like to use the pastels. I had a pastel I was doing yesterday. I'm looking around to see if I have any laying on my desk. Yeah, there's one right there. But anyway, so you can do painterly things. But in this case, it's going to be digital. It's on Procreate on my iPad. So I've already done a long enough intro. You don't need to be seeing my face right now with my new t-shirt I got from Robin yesterday. All right, so I'm going to turn this around and get started. It's so the gist here is we're going to do a digital oil painting, a painterly oil painting, so it looks like a painting. And I'll tell you what I did and how I did it. Okay, here we go. All right, so here is the iPad, and I have it open to my Procreate gallery, and now I'm opening up the canvas. I made a 20 by 16 canvas, and you can see the insert picture. That's my reference photo that I'm going to use. I went online and found a picture of a dog that I liked on a surfboard as my reference photo. My intent is not to recreate that photo, but to use it as a model, as a reference. And I'm just kind of resizing it here because the iPad is, I think it's 13 inches or something. So it's, about the size of a sheet of paper. And the finished painting, if it were to be printed on canvas or something, it would be 16 by 20. So you have to keep in mind when you're doing a small painting that's going to become or could become a large painting, to keep that in mind, because you want the strokes of the brush to, kind of make sense on a larger surface. So here, what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to figure out a great complementary color to put behind the dog. So this would be in traditional paint. You would paint the the canvas with a color that you feel will complement the final painting. Not always, but usually you can go to the opposite color. And when you use Procreate, like you see I'm using the color circle, the color wheel. And I'm grabbing whatever, so there's the color from the water, from the photo, and I'm going to the opposite side of it, which is on the red end of the spectrum. Although it's not red, nor is it completely blue-green. It's got other elements in it. It's dark and it's light, and I'm just looking for the color rather, that I think will work in this particular painting as a background. A wash, if you will, over the canvas. And so, and here I wasn't at this point I wasn't really sure do I want this to be a cartoon? Do I want this to look like a painting? And so you see me basically doing nothing. I'm just thinking about it, So I think at this point, I think I've already decided I wanted to do it painterly. So I picked the turpentine brush over the oil brush. Sometimes I like the oil brush and sometimes the turpentine. Sometimes I like the dry brush. And there's numerous brushes that they give you, including other brushes that you can buy from different places online. I've seen people have, or they give them away for free. In the real world, a brush is an important thing to an artist. Whether it's like the highwaymen, they used like big wide brushes that they would use to paint houses. And in art circles, sometimes they have they're very picky about making sure the brush is the exact right brush and the exact right size. And everybody is different. Everybody has their own thoughts on brushes and on paints and etc. So if you're watching my video, then you're going to hear my thoughts on this subject. Of course, right now I'm not using any brush because it's digital, so I'm using an Apple Pencil. All I'm really doing here is I'm trying to lay down the complementary color I chose, which is that reddish color, and I'm putting it over the white paper. But I decided I don't want that white behind it. I want the canvas itself to have a color, and I'm trying to decide which color I want that to be. And so I just grab the canvas, and that's way too red. So I want to desaturate it and make it a little bit lighter. So that's what I did. So now behind the background color is another background color that's similar, but not the same. And I purposely made the top of the picture a little bit lighter than the bottom of the picture, because if you look at the reference photo, that's the way the reference photo is. The top is a little bit lighter than the bottom, actually considerably lighter. And the middle is very bright because of the surf, but I didn't worry about that right now at this point. Okay, so I grab a dark color and decide to just basically sketch in the rough idea of what the dog looks like. And this is usually how I begin most paintings. If I'm doing a likeness of a person, which I don't do too much anymore. I don't do too many portraits. Once in a while, I'll still do people, but I don't necessarily do portraits in the sense that they look like the person I'm painting. I did so many of them when I was younger. I can't tell you how many I did, just one after another. And what I like doing now is I like doing paintings that other people would like to have. The problem with the portraits is that the only people who really want them are the people who know the person in the picture, unless it's a famous person or celebrity. And everybody paints celebrities. You go to an art show, and everybody's got David Bowie, everybody's got Elvis Presley, everybody's got Marilyn Monroe. There's a lot of that. Okay, so here's a beautiful part about digital. You can move it and resize it. So that's what I did. I decided the dog should be bigger and should be more centered, and so I was able to isolate it because the what I have so far of the dog and the surfboard is on a separate layer, and so I was able to isolate that and drag the corners and make it bigger, and drag the whole picture and move it over. So that's what I did there. The dog, as you can see, is mostly dark. There are some browns, and there is some reflective light coming off the dog's sides, and of course you want to make sure you see the dog's face. And so everything I've done so far is just kind of a foundation. Now, when you make it bigger, you see that it's really a sloppy painting. But that's okay. That's how I start. I start like that. And as you can tell, I'm not really so concerned about getting all the colors exactly as they are. And I'm sampling the colors from the photograph itself. I don't always do this. Sometimes I will. In fact, well, let me finish my sentence and then I'll tell you the in fact part. So sometimes I will just go to the palette and eyeball it as you would with regular paint, with traditional paint, and pick out the colors that you think work. Now, here's the other thing I wanted to say. I interrupted myself, didn't I? The other thing I wanted to say is that sometimes it's fun. It's beautiful sometimes to use a color that's not even associated with the thing you're looking at. You have a maybe instead of a blue sky, maybe you have a red sky, which is not so unusual, really. A purple sky. Again, I don't think there's any color in the sky that's unusual. I think we've all seen yellow skies, orange skies, red skies, So, but maybe that's a bad example. How about a dog? How about a purple dog? Yeah, there's not too many of them. And also what you can see is I'm using the eraser. There it is. That's the eraser. And you can make, if you're new to digital art, this is Procreate, but the Photoshop has the same thing. You can make the eraser the same, behave the same way, look the same way as the brush, or not. Sometimes I use the airbrush eraser, and sometimes I use the brush that I'm using in the eraser. So in this case, I used the turpentine eraser in the same way that I'm using the turpentine brush, only to continue that feel of an actual painting, although it's digital. So I'm just basically laying down some of the shadows on the dog, some of the reflective light that's off the side of the dog. I would assume there's a dog in the water, that he's wet, so some of that reflection is probably exaggerated because of the sun reflecting off of the wet surface of the dog on the dog's fur. I wonder if the dog likes this. I bet they do. I bet the dogs, dogs are amazing. They just love doing whatever their people do most of the time. They just all they want to do is be with the person, right? Be with their owner, be with their master, whatever. I love dogs. So yeah, when I heard the story about I'll get back to that when I heard the story. But right now, what I'm doing is I'm kind of deciding that I made the dog's head too small, so I'm isolating the dog's head. And now I'm going to move it down a little bit and make it a little bigger. There you go. And just kind of futz with it a little bit until I was happy with the way it looked. So anyway, I was listening, as I mentioned in the intro, to the radio on my drive yesterday. Christmas Day, there was like no traffic, which was great. And there was a radio station that had a news item about the dogs surfing in Daytona. Not Daytona, in Cocoa Beach, which is not too far from Daytona. Anyway, I don't know if they were doing that yesterday. No, they couldn't have been. But they must have been doing it earlier in the week that they had the dogs out there. And so somebody mentioned Santa dogs, the dogs with Santa hats on. So I thought, well, I'm listening to the radio. I'd like to see this. So as an illustrator, you can illustrate what you hear, and then, that's what it looked like. I don't know if it looked like this or not, but anyway, it seemed like a good idea for a subject. So you can see that a lot of it is basically laid out already. I'm sampling the colors. I didn't need to sample the colors from the surfboard because all it is a light color and a dark color. You could have picked any two light and dark colors. But I did. I sampled the photograph itself, and you will see that I don't completely cover the complementary reddish background. I do cover it a lot. You'll see, but right now, like I was looking at this point, and I was thinking I almost like it like that. I almost like it with the dog on the surfboard with the red background. But I didn't keep it like that. I wanted the underside of the surfboard to be reflecting the light from the water, because the light is coming through the water and then like reflects off the bottom, the sand on the bottom of beach. And this is a fun picture. Yeah, that must have been fun being out there. We live so close. Sometimes I think I should be there more often. I'm there enough in the summer. So a lot of what I'm doing now is trying to decide what to do. I'm continuing. I did the whole thing using the turpentine brush, and there's a separate layer. I decided to do a separate layer just in case I messed up and I wanted to just obliterate the whole layer. I'm just putting some color in to kind of emulate the photograph, but I didn't want to duplicate the photograph. I wanted to keep it painterly or artsy. I wanted to keep it very brush strokey, very loose. Not impressionism. Well, maybe it's impressionism in a way, because if you look at it closely, you see that it's just a bunch of brush strokes, which is usually the way impressionism works. Sometimes when you look at the work of Salvador Dali, we have a Salvador Dali museum down in Clearwater, so you can get right up to the paintings, and you see the great detail that he puts into his paintings. What is his style called? His is called surrealism, I think, right? The melting clock guy, if you don't know who I'm talking about. And that's amazing too. It really is. I mean, the thought behind some of his work, how there's a painting down there, and it's a matador, I think. And when you look at it, all of a sudden you realize it's not a matador. It's like this. It's like a scene in a street scene, and he's able to see, I guess, two things at once and paint them in there. And just if you've ever tried to do that, it's not easy. But that was his thing. It was his claim to fame. He must have been quite a character, right? I saw him on an old black and white rerun on YouTube of, I think it's What's My Line, where they have to guess who they're talking to. And if the person is famous, then the panel has to wear blindfolds and just ask questions, usually yes or no questions. And so Salvador Dali was one of the guests, and he had that signature mustache that he always had, with the handlebar thing, the waxed ends. He was quite a guy. He reminded me of John Lennon. I got the feeling listening to interviews with Salvador Dali, not the game show I was just talking about, but I just got the feeling that, just like John Lennon, he liked having fun with people when they were interviewing him, and he liked giving answers that would make people raise their eyebrows or just reveal that he was silly, and just like John Lennon, when something serious happened in his life, and somebody asked him about it, he would become very serious. So, kind of interesting, isn't it? Okay, so right there you saw that I was still not completely content with the placement of the dog or the size of the dog. And the beautiful thing is that I made it a separate layer. And you can see right now, 1, 2, I have 5 layers on there. One is the dog. Mostly, I think it's all one layer is the dog. The other layers are the water, mostly the water, and then the complementary background. But the water is what I did is I put one layer behind the dog, so that when I painted the water behind the dog, I didn't have to worry too much about staying in the lines because it's behind him. So as long as I have paint there, it won't show through. Same thing here when I'm putting some of the highlights of the water in the water. I'm putting it behind a layer, and that kind of gives that cool effect of depth, I guess. But I didn't go too far as change. You see at this point, the background water looks more blue, and the foreground water looks more green. So I wanted to give a little bit of sense of that. and a little bit of sense of the surfboard creating or casting a shadow onto the water underneath it. I just can't get over how much fun this dog probably had. All right, so now I'm at the part where I'm just going to add a Santa Claus hat to the dog. And it's pretty easy. I mean, if you've ever painted a Santa Claus hat on anything, it's like super easy. Yeah, I try to make it more difficult than it needs to be by adding shadows, but you don't even really need to do that, if you're just trying to create an illusion. So I used 2 tones of light color. One is like really a blue-gray right there for the fur around the hat, and then I added some pure white. There you go, just to give it that edge, that pop out effect. And then of course the white ball at the end of the hat, and it's flying behind him, so the placement of the hat was a decision also. Not much of one, but it was one. And so now as I am looking at the painting at this point, I'm thinking, okay, it looks like maybe it's done. It looks painterly. I probably added a few more strokes to the background just to give it, maybe, I don't know if I moved the dog or if I kept him like that. Let's see. What did I do? Oh, what I did right there, 3 fingers, swipe across 3 fingers, and you can copy it. And then 3 fingers, again, swipe it across, and you can paste it. So now I'm pasting the whole picture on top of itself. So instead of working with all layers, now I have one layer, which is everything. And let's see if I show you that. You see at the very top right there? That very top, that's the whole painting done in one layer. And you can see I have it on top of the other layers, and then I stretch it out. Oh yeah, that's right. This is how I resize it. And it's kind of center it a bit, make it more of a finished painting, a painterly painting. And then I'm going to turn it this way, vertically, portrait way, right? And kind of just decide, do I want to change anything or not? Because I'm now at this point, I'm imagining, okay, it's on a wall somewhere. In fact, I can do that at the end of this video. I'll show you what it looked like. What happened right there? Did it stop recording or something? Oh, there it goes. I don't know if I lost a bit of this or not. But anyway, not sure what I'm doing here. I'm probably just thinking about it, trying to figure out what I want to do. Oh, I'm just going to add a little. Maybe I just felt like the complementary color was a little bit overbearing. Needed to be covered up just a little bit more. So rather than sample colors from the photograph, I'm just using my judgment and just adding a few areas of green and blue. There you go. Yeah, now it's starting to look like a finished painting, huh? I guess that's it. I think that's all I did. All right, I want to show you the finished painting, and then I'll throw in some mock-up shots so that it looks like the painting of the dog is on a frame on a wall in a gallery somewhere. Okay. All right, kids. Well, hope you enjoyed this. What I'm doing here is I'm exporting it to my computer so that I could make this video, and so that I could put the painting onto my website, which I'll give you in a second. It's my name, LarryWhitler.com. And that's it. If you want to copy this painting, you can get it off of my site. And that's it. That's the whole deal, baby. Okay. There she is. All right. Hey, enjoy the week between Christmas and New Year's. And I'll talk to you next time. If you want to subscribe, that's good, because then I'll let you know, or YouTube will let you know when I put something else up here. All right. Bye. See you later.